Hello and welcome to Gut Shot, the only Magic the Gathering podcast suspended in historic. My God, how did we manage that one? But yeah, this is Will, and I'm joined as always by Frederick.
Hello everyone, it's Frederick, the only person who likes the VIP Karn art in Double Masters. Welcome to Gut Shot.
Man, so Frederick, what's bappin'?
Not much. I've been excited by this Jumpstart. I've been playing a lot of Jumpstart on Arena. It's a shame you can only really play and get rewards for it with a deck twice, because I really wanted to play the Elves Dinosaurs more times. It feels like there are some packets that are so synergistic they feel like constructed decks, and I've been having some fun with those. It's kind of a pain to grind out the 2 wins with like smashing Teferi or like whatever the worst combinations you can get offered are. But it's a fun format. I'm enjoying it more than I thought that I would.
Yeah, Jumpstart's really great. I'm glad to hear that you're having some fun with it. I really do wish that I could summon up my inner Spike and like really grind these out for some high level prizes. But it is what it is. The lower prize level gets a lot of people who would normally pay the gold to get in, to let them in on the fun and not feel bad about it. So yeah, good times all around. Do you think that I should out myself? So just let's be clear. I'm 30 years old. Should I out myself as a 30-year-old man saying was bapping on a podcast?
Absolutely. I think you have a duty to, given the war crime that you just committed. I think there's something more important you need to out yourself for doing, which is what are you doing and what are you playing Jumpstart instead of doing right now?
Right, yeah. So huge Kojima fan. I've been looking forward to the game Death Stranding for a long time. I don't own a PS4. I've had the blinders on ever since November to not spoil myself. I paid full price for Death Stranding on PC. I played it for 7 hours and then immediately dropped it so I could play Jumpstart back to back.
Yeah, that sounds like given what I've heard about that game, that sounds like a good decision. I know that most of my friends didn't care for it, but you seem to have a good impression of it. At least you played it for 7 hours.
Well, if you asked me whether I rather carry a baby across the wasteland that is the United States of America, or I rather carry my team in open constructed format at a SCG Open, I think I'd choose the baby.
Oh, okay, yeah. See, if my team was Norman Reedus and a baby instead of my girlfriend and my friend from high school, neither of whom play Modern as their primary format, I would probably choose Norman Reedus and a
baby. Yeah, me too. Well, let's get into this. Today's question is Pioneer dead? To give a little background on this, Pioneer format was created not too long ago, in October of 2019. That's only 9 months ago. This is still a format in its infancy. And for those of you who don't know, it's Return to Ravnica forward, with a ban list that's pretty small. It's mostly the cons fetches, which, I mean, thank God they had the foresight to just say no fetches in this format. We know how much Wizards hates having that much shuffling in the formats they want to promote, and a few other cards that are mostly recent design mistakes, like Once Upon a Time, Leyline of Abundancy, and stuff like that.
I feel like it's kind of a shame that Pioneer gets to live into its infancy when Frontier sort of got aborted before 9 months. I think that would have been a much more fun format, and like it surprises me that Pioneer is 9 months old. It doesn't feel that old.
Yeah, for me, it feels a lot older than that. I guess just the pace of news these days just makes things seem like they are, have been around for a lot longer than they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a good point. Pioneer is obviously a homage to the Frontier format that was pushed in Japan a couple of years back, which was, I believe it was Khans of Tarkir forward. So yeah, or Origins.
It was M15 and on.
Oh, that's right. M15, then Khans, then Origins was later that next year. Yeah.
Yeah, because I got corporate calling.
Yeah, so that's the origin of the name Pioneer as a homage to that. But, it started out really strong. Lots of support, lots of people excited to play this format. It didn't look like, since it was mostly newer cards, the kind of newer design philosophy the Wizards had adopted, It didn't seem like it was going to have powerful cards, but it wouldn't be busted. There wouldn't be these like crazy, combos or like degenerate decks that would overtake the format. So it had a strong start at the end of 2019, but at the beginning of 2020, things actually became pretty rough. And it really started with the set Theros Beyond Death. Theros Beyond Death had a couple of cards added to the Pioneer format that, I mean, just for lack of a better term, really broke the format. There's Thassa's Oracle. And for those of you that don't know Thassa's Oracle, it's a 2-mana, 1/3. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue, and she adds 2 devotion. Put up to one of them on top of your library and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. So basically, Thassa's Oracle in effect is like an instant speed library maniac. You put her into play, and then if your deck's empty, you win the game, and that's how she's used. And another card that came out was Underworld Breach, which is a 2-mana red enchantment. It gives every card in your graveyard escape, which means you can play it from the graveyard by paying its mana cost and by exiling 3 other cards from your graveyard. So basically, sort of a fixed Yawgmoth's Will, but it pretty much is still just Yawgmoth's Will. You play this, you just get to recycle everything in your graveyard over and over again if your deck's built right. These 2 cards really have shaped the Pioneer meta. Thassa's Oracle gave rise to the Dimir Inverter deck, which uses a card called Inverter of Truth as a 2-card combo to mill yourself and then immediately win the game with Thassa's Oracle's ability. And then another deck, Lotus Breach, popped up, which uses Underworld Breach plus a lot of cards that mill yourself and cycle through your deck to gain incredible value.
Yeah.
Theros Beyond Death was a very influential set for the development of Pioneer.
Influential is a fun word to use for that. It seems like it sort of cracked the format open.
Yeah, definitely. And then one more thing happened, which I'm sure everyone knows: the COVID-19 pandemic hit in March, and in-store play has, for the most part, been suspended since then, with a little blip of people trying to play at the end of June, which got stomped out. With it being Return to Ravnica Forward and most of these cards not being on Arena, a lot of Pioneer play was happening in paper, and all sanctioned paper Magic being stopped really hurt people playing the format.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was maybe the death blow to Pioneer, but I feel like a good format could have survived that. I feel like a good format could have made it through COVID-19 even with it in its infancy.
So ever since those 2 things hit, Pioneer has really devolved into a combo-centric format, or at least is considered to be by its players. And online play, ever since about March, has really dwindled. And we're getting to the point where Magic Online challenges really aren't firing regularly. Despite problems in other formats, there are people who are wanting to play them, but that's a really bad sign for your format if your premier tournaments on Magic Online are just not firing. What better signal that players just do not want to play that format is there than that, right?
Right.
So the latest news in Pioneer is the July 13th ban announcement. They announced that something was going to happen in Pioneer, and to everyone's surprise, there were actually no bans, but an unban. The player base at large really thought that the Dimir Inverter deck that uses Thassa's Oracle needed some sort of nerf. Lots of people saying that Thassa's Oracle needed to be banned itself, or maybe another piece from that deck, or Breach being banned. So lots of people were surprised to see that nothing was banned, and instead we got an unban for the card Oath of Nissa, which I believe was one of the original cards on the ban list.
Yeah, it was part of that big wave of green bans very early in the format when those decks were too strong. The issue is, if they're going to just ban another card that enables these sort of uninteractive combo decks. Like when your answer to one uninteractive combo deck is an uninteractive combo deck, it's kind of like answering protests of police brutality with police brutality.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this surprise unban and lack of bans really was met with disappointment online. And if you go and look at the Reddit threads, the Twitter threads, just filled with RIP Pioneer jokes and lots of people saying that Pioneer is just completely dead now. So that's the question. Is Pioneer dead? Frederick, do you think that Pioneer is dead?
I don't know if like it seems like Pioneer is dead, and I hope Pioneer is dead. I didn't like the format, and I can get into that in a minute later. But like when you're unbanning a sort of uninteractive deck that people kind of universally didn't like to answer an uninteractive deck that people kind of universally don't like, you're kind of just creating a new problem. So that does not bode well for the longevity of a format. I think these powerful combo decks are sort of intrinsic to the fact that you have a lot of powerful combo and payoff cards with Return to Ravnica and on, but you just have a lot fewer of the answers. You don't have Bolt, you don't have Path, you don't have like efficient removal for these threats and these combo cards in a new format. Like you're pretty much just limited to like Assassin's Trophy and Fatal Push in terms of good, very efficient removal to answer combo cards. What I personally don't like about Pioneer, like the format didn't feel designed. The start point seemed very arbitrary, and it doesn't feel like they've figured out the Pioneer meta enough to be releasing cards that feel like they were designed to answer something or create something in Pioneer in the way that they do with Modern. Like we got Alpine Moon. Like that was very obviously designed for Modern to answer some Modern decks. And they have the freedom to do that because they can understand the Modern format. And they're not there with Pioneer. And if you're going to announce a format, I feel like you should already be there. You should be printing cards that either answer or expand options in Pioneer if you want Pioneer to be a format.
Wizards has proven themselves incapable of understanding their formats. They do a little bit of testing for standard, but we know that they don't actively test for their older formats. Yeah, so it kind of makes sense that the format wouldn't be designed because they're actively not trying to do any designing and expecting the player base to do the work to figure out what that format's going to look like for them.
Yeah, it feels like their playtesting is literally just standard, and they do it on like a Friday. Like they come into work, start playtesting, and then they're done by the time that they get hungry and go to Quiznos. They literally like their playtesting seems so minimal that they're just letting crazy shit slip through the cracks, and like that sort of shows. And if that's the level of care they're going to be taking, like then I don't think they have the resources to test for another format. Like your parents aren't going to buy you a dog if you can't take care of a hamster. You know what I mean?
Sure. I can forgive them for not putting in the work to design formats like Pioneer and Modern. I think it makes a lot of sense just to throw, the world's best like beta testers, the Magic the Gathering player base, throwing the format at them and being like, here, go wild, break it, do whatever you can. I think that's an appropriate way to look at it. The problem is you have to follow that up with listening to the player base who are telling you, hey, we hate this card. We do not want this card in our format. We want the top deck to be using this in a 2-card combo or using this in a degenerate, turn 3 or turn 4 deck that has a minimal interaction with it. Please get rid of these cards. You have to listen to those players and follow up on the design choices that they're making for you.
Yeah, it feels like the players know best, but only as long as it saves Wizards from work. It's missing. The format is missing a lot of the Modern cards that get Modern players excited. Like maybe if it had gone a little bit earlier, but they're lacking payoff cards for some deck. They're lacking a lot of removal cards. So it just feels like Modern, but like half the cards are missing. Or it feels like I feel like old players are just going to gravitate toward Modern, and new players are just going to play Standard because they don't like none of their standard cards are viable in Pioneer, and none of our modern cards are legal in Pioneer. So those two demographics are going to stick to the formats that they're already playing, that they're already enjoying.
I would say that the problem isn't so much the lack of answers, but just the power level of the threats. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but I don't see any problems with the removal. I think just there's just too much combo going on. There's too much like things like answer right now or you're done.
Yeah.
If those things were removed, I think that the answers that Pioneer has probably are sufficient. I would look at it from, instead of probably like bottom up, the way to describe that, probably looking at it from a like what's wrong at the top and go down.
Yeah, I think I would agree there. That should be their design philosophy, but they just sort of aren't putting the time into learning what's wrong with this format, or it feels even listening to the players at this point.
Yeah, Pioneer overall has a lot of problems. I would say no, Pioneer isn't dead. It's just sleeping, as they say. Lots of people love Pioneer and want it to be successful. I remember the huge outpouring of excitement and brewing deck building that happened at the beginning of the format. I was watching closely. I'm super into the red deck wins, burn type gameplay. So I was keeping a close eye on how those decks were shaping up, and even shelling out some cash to pick up cards that looked like they were going to be red deck wins staples in the format. Like all of that excitement and support did dwindle once these problems added up, and I think that excitement can come back. We can look at the format and see the exact things that happened to make people not want to play it. If we just get rid of those problems, I really think that all of that support's going to come back, because a good amount of the sets that are in Pioneer were really popular. I mean, it has cons, it has the Return to Ravnica format, and it has some duds, but a couple other. It has Dominaria in it. There are definitely cards in the format that people want to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem cards just need to go. Thassa's Oracle, Underworld Breach, they need to go. And honestly, it's not, the problem cards aren't cards from the past. They're all new cards. And it just speaks to that new design philosophy that Wizards has, where they're just making these cards, more powerful and more powerful. They do more stuff and they break the game on their own. Thassa's Oracle is fine for standard. I honestly think that Thassa's Oracle should not be a card that exists, regardless of whether it's good in standard. So, on a macro level, Wizards needs to get their act together on the way that they're designing cards. Get rid of fire philosophy and just make sensible Magic cards again. And and these mistakes, just get them out of Pioneer and let the format, get back to a normal power level.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree. Like what a normal power level is pretty subjective, because obviously there was a time when like the Tron lands were in standard, and that was like a normal power level. I mean, I guess they couldn't be fetched, but like normal power level is pretty subjective. But it's pretty clear to me that these kinds of cards that like I think there are cards that they should look at when they're designing them and realize, there's no deck that wants to play this that's fair. There would be no deck that would want to play this in an interactive way. This card can only exist in a deck that's trying to make some combo to lock their opponent out of playing the game. And then when they see that, they should not print that card. Stuff like Splinter Twin or whatever. When like when you have like Malira and like Kitchen Finks, like that was accidental. Those cards both exist independent of that combo, and they're both healthy cards independent of that combo. But like Splinter Twin kind of only exists to be in a busted combo.
Yeah, just see, you're right. The power level is subjective, but like, I mean, the players are screaming at you, "Hey, we don't want this. This is a power level we don't want in our format." Just listen to them. Just do it and make everybody happy. One thing we haven't talked about yet is that there are plans to bring Pioneer to Arena. Those might be pretty far away, but the team is working towards getting these cards onto Arena. Right now, Pioneer, sees some play online, but it was mostly a paper format in the first months of its existence. They are going to, in addition to the cards that are Pioneer legal and are being added to Historic separately, they're starting to do these remastered sets. So we're getting Amonkhet remastered, I believe, next month in August, and they plan to slowly add these cards, including a Pioneers Masters set that was just recently announced and will be coming to Arena to add the big the big players in the format to Arena to get the format jumpstart. Once Pioneer is on Arena, I really do think it's going to take off more than it has, regardless of whether these problem cards exist or not. Just because it's on the online client that Wizards cares about right now. If it's only on Magic the Gathering Online, Wizards just isn't going to put in the effort to care about it than if it's on their new cash cow Arena.
Yeah, I agree. So the adding of Pioneer Masters to Arena, now it's a digital only set, right?
Yes, yeah, only coming to Arena.
So the adding of that to Arena was actually something I wanted to speak about a little bit. I think that it could be a really interesting chance for Wizards to have sort of a half of Pioneer format on Arena, where like maybe they just don't put Inverter in there, don't put a couple of the really good card, Oath of Nissa, like that kind of stuff. Just don't put those in Pioneer Masters, but put all the other meta-defining cards, or most of the other meta-defining cards, in Pioneer Masters, and see if the format on Arena is more fun than the format in paper. See if people are enjoying it more, complaining about it less without those problem cards. And then you could use that sort of transition into Pioneer on Arena as a litmus test for which cards you might want to ban out of the paper Pioneer format, the actual Pioneer format.
That seems like a good idea, but like if Wizards want to do that, why wouldn't they just ban the card that the players are telling them to ban? It sounds like that's just a really like a labor intensive way to just listen to what the players are telling you and do the thing they're telling you to do, right?
That's fair, yeah.
But yeah, I definitely hear you. It's weird because Arena has Historic, which is taking off on its own, and really seems to have its own identity and thing going on, and people are really latching onto it and creating content for it and liking it. I mean, are people once Pioneer comes to Arena, are people going to want to abandon Historic to play a format that Wizards is putting less thought and time into?
I doubt it, honestly. And I think if you have two formats where your cards go after they rotate and people kind of have to pick one, but like one has these extra cards and one has these older cards, like it's just going to be super confusing for players. So I feel like it's in their best interest to eventually merge the two formats, to put the cards that are legal and historic from the anthologies and from Jumpstart and make them legal in Pioneer and just expand back to Pioneer on Arena. And I hope eventually Modern, but I don't know if that'll.
Right. Yeah. What you're saying makes sense. I do have to say I hate that idea.
Okay.
To be as clear as possible. Honestly, if we're up to me, I would not put Pioneer on Arena and only have Historic. Don't mix the streams. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. Put the time and effort into Historic on Arena, and then people that want to play Pioneer can play in paper or on MTGO, as long as Wizards listens to the player base and does what they want them to. I really kind of wince at the idea of it being so muddled on there. But I mean, more cards on Arena. I guess I can't really complain about that, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I meant. Like, either merge the two or don't put Pioneer on Arena. Like, make every card that's programmed into Arena on Historic.
Oh, I guess I should say, I actually really like Historic. I played a lot of it, especially when Noda was legal, which shows how degenerate I am. I actually love the idea of Historic, that it's much more curated and requires the attention of Wizards to insert those, I mean, popular older cards. So it just intrinsically gets more attention than the Pioneer ban list does. I don't want to lose that like uniqueness of historic to Pioneer, which is not like super designed, and Wizards, obviously isn't trying to care about. I really want historic to like flourish on its own and be its own distinct thing that has its own identity that won't get swallowed up by Pioneer.
Okay, I think a Pioneer Masters set on Arena could help that. Like a Pioneer Masters set is probably going to have 50 cards that would be playable in Historic, like 50 cards that would be good enough to be played in Historic. And that's just like a couple of anthologies worth of cards. And they can pick ones to put in there that will only be safe for Historic. Like they can choose not to put, I don't know, Court of Calling or something in there. Or Inverter of Truth, obviously, they wouldn't put in there, hopefully. But like they could, if they're making every card programmed into Arena legal and Historic, they could just like make sure that all the cards they're putting in the Pioneer Masters are ones that would be safe and fun in Historic.
Yeah, no, that's you're definitely you're on the right track there. Do you trust Wizards to make good decisions about that?
Fuck no. I don't trust Wizards to make good decisions. Honestly, you know what I think would be great if Magic players, the only people less bad at making decisions than Wizards of the Coast, got to just vote on a card to get added to Pioneer or to get added to Historic every week.
Yeah, that'd be good. I actually would love to see the format after something like that was implemented.
After a few weeks of voting and well, if we don't get trolled into just getting the Power 9 immediately, I think it could be interesting. Like I would try to get like Dark Confidant added. I would try to move it toward Modern. But like I don't know. Like I think that could be like if it was a little bit of a democratic process. I don't know.
Regardless of the terribleness of Magic players, I think Magic players as a group could definitely make better decisions than Wizards. So yeah. So as far as Pioneer goes, it's pretty much the equivalent of dead at the moment. But I'm looking forward to keeping my eyes on it. Once Pioneer Masters hits Arena, I'll definitely check it out and see how the format looks then. But for now, you're better off just doing something else. Play Historic or do something like that, and wait until something develops with Pioneer before you get into it.
Pioneer just doesn't have anything similar enough to something I would like to play in another format for me to feel like I can jump onto it. Like the mono green deck doesn't feel like mono green Devotion in Modern. The Mardu midrange deck doesn't really exist, and it doesn't feel like none of the old standard decks I'd want to play are viable, like T-Merge. So I just don't have a reason to play Pioneer.
Yeah. So we'll check back in on the format in a couple of months, and for now, I think that's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for listening to Gutshot, home of the absolute spiciest MTG hot takes. I'm Will at Aggressive Rhetoric.
And I'm Frederick on Twitch at War Crimes Ooh Woo. We opened a pack of Double Masters and got Lux Cannon and Boon Reflections, so that's all the time we have for today. Join us next time for more Gutshot.